Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to be taking a look at something pretty amazing. Some really fascinating science that's kind of on the horizon. And I know a lot of you are really into longevity.
Right.
And you're into the science of how we age and what we can do about it.
Absolutely.
I think you're going to find this really, really interesting.
Yeah, this is really exciting research.
So get ready, because we're about to explore this buzz that's happening around this molecule called interleukin-11, or IL-11.
Okay.
And just to give you a little bit of background, IL-11 is
It's a cytokine. So it's a signaling molecule
right.
that cells use to communicate with each other.
Okay.
And it belongs to this family of molecules called the interleukin-6 family.
Right.
And this family is
Just all these interleukins, they're all kind of doing similar things.
Yeah, they're all involved in the body's response to injury or threat.
Right.
And so what's interesting is this role of IL-11 and how it seems to shift as we age.
So basically, this is like your quick guide to understanding a really exciting area in anti-aging research.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're interested in this kind of stuff,
yeah,
this is important for you to listen to. And so our goal today is for you, the listener, to understand why there is so much attention on IL-11 as a potential key player in the aging process itself.
Right.
So we want to know, why are scientists looking at this molecule? And how does it play a role in how we age? And specifically, we're going to be looking at how it affects our lifespan, our health span, and things that are really important to us.
Yeah, and I think what's really neat about this is, we're talking about not just living longer, but staying healthier for longer. And I know a lot of your listeners are very interested in that.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, as they get older, they start to think about, okay, well, I'm living longer, but am I healthier?
Right. Are you living better?
Yeah.
Are you living a better quality of life? So that's really what we're going to get into today.
Yeah. So we're going to be looking at this really significant connection that's emerged from the research. And that's the connection between IL-11 and GRFL, these two major aspects of aging that we all kind of see or that we're concerned about, which is, as we get older, we tend to gain fat and we tend to lose muscle.
Exactly. So, you see that kind of change in body composition as people age.
And that's a big problem.
Right. And it contributes to a lot of other issues as well.
Yeah. So how does IL-11 fit into this?
So the crucial finding here is that as we get older, the levels of IL-11 in our bodies also seem to go up.
Okay.
And this increase isn't just some small change. It seems to happen alongside a bunch of diseases that become more common as we age.
So it's like correlated with all these.
Exactly. It's correlated with the progression of these diseases.
Interesting.
So this suggests that IL-11 might actually be actively driving this aging process.
So it's not just like a byproduct.
Right. It's not just a marker of aging. It's like it's part of the problem.
Okay. So this rise in IL-11.
Yeah.
How does it specifically affect our body's like balance of fat and muscle? Because I think for a lot of people listening, that's a huge concern. As we get older, we lose that mobility. We start to feel less robust.
You got it.
So how does this molecule play into that?
So the research shows that IL-11 seems to be promoting fat storage in the body.
Okay.
And at the same time, it's actually hindering the body's ability to maintain and build muscle.
Oh, wow.
So it's like a double whammy.
So it's like working against us in both ways.
Yeah, we accumulate more fat and we struggle to hold on to muscle.
Which is exactly what we don't want.
Exactly what we don't want.
As we get older. So I know that scientists have been doing some fascinating work in the lab to kind of dig deeper into this.
Yes.
And I'm thinking specifically about these studies with mice.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that nature study?
Yeah, so the study was really fascinating. They looked at older mice. These mice were 75 weeks old, which in mice years is pretty old.
That's like equivalent to like elderly.
Yeah, very elderly.
Yeah.
And what they did was they gave these mice a treatment that blocked the action of IL-11 for 25 weeks.
Wow. So they're basically trying to counteract the effects of this molecule.
Exactly. They're trying to see what happens if we take IL-11 out of the equation.
Right. What did they find?
The results were really quite remarkable.
Okay.
The mice that received this treatment showed a bunch of improvements. They had better metabolic function.
Okay.
So their bodies were better at processing energy. Their muscles were functioning better. And they had lower levels of these biological markers that are associated with aging.
Okay.
And perhaps most importantly, they seemed to be less frail overall.
So they were like more robust.
More robust.
more resilient.
Wow, so that's amazing. Like they're improving their metabolism, their muscles are stronger,
Ugh.
they're less frail. So that's a pretty big step towards healthier aging.
Now, I remember reading something about lifespan extension in
Yes.
these studies as well.
Yeah, so this is where it gets even more interesting. They actually took some mice and genetically modified them so that they didn't produce IL-11 at all.
So, like, they knocked it out.
Knocked it out from birth.
And what happened?
And these mice lived on average 25% longer.
25%.
That's a huge increase.
That is huge. So that's like one of those moments where you're like, okay, this could be
Yeah, this could be a game
a
changer.
really big deal. Of course, as we always have to say,
Of course.
these are studies in mice. And, the picture might be different in humans.
We can't just extrapolate from mice to humans.
Right, we always have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, but it's definitely exciting.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I think it's important to mention that, human trials are essential to
Absolutely.
determine if we see the same kind of effects in people. Now, one of the things I found fascinating about this whole thing is this evolutionary perspective on IL-11. So it's not like this molecule just kind of appeared recently.
Right. It's been around for a long time.
It's been around for a while.
It's an ancient molecule. We see it in all kinds of vertebrates, even fish.
So it's been around since the beginning.
Yeah,
Really?
pretty much. And it likely played a really important role in protecting those early organisms.
Okay, so it was actually helping them to survive.
Yeah, helping them survive things like infections, injuries. It's involved in immunity, and
Well.
it's involved in hematopoiesis.
But it's helping to make new blood cells.
Exactly.
That's essential.
Absolutely essential.
So basically, back in the early days of vertebrate evolution, this molecule was actually like a good guy.
Yeah, I was a good guy.
It was helping our ancestors survive threats and injuries.
Exactly.
But as vertebrates evolved and became more complex.
Right, as things got more complicated, the role of IL-11 seems to have expanded.
Oh, okay, so it took on new jobs.
Yeah, new responsibilities. It became involved in other processes, like fibrosis, which is the formation of scar tissue, and inflammation.
Right.
So this is where we get this idea of a double-edged sword.
Interesting.
So this molecule that was once primarily protective may have taken on these additional roles that are actually detrimental
Yeah.
later in life.
Wow, so it's like its job description changed
Yeah.
over millions of years.
That's a great way to put it.
So it went from being like the protector to maybe part of the problem.
Yeah, so this IL-11, that was so helpful in dealing with threats back in the day, might now be contributing things like muscle loss,
Yeah.
excess fat storage, and that chronic inflammation that we see in older adults.
So it's like almost like a betrayal.
Kind of, yeah. It's like, oh, I thought you were on our side, but now you're turning against us.
It's kind of a surprising thought
It is surprising.
that something so fundamental to our biology could have this kind of dual nature.
Yeah, it's like a Jekyll and Hyde situation.
Right. Okay. So with all this in mind, we've got this increase in IL-11 with age.
Yeah.
We've got its impact on body composition. And we've got these remarkable findings in mice. What are the implications here for the future of anti-aging therapies?
Well, the most significant implication is that targeting IL-11 could be a real strategy for combating aging and age-related diseases.
That's huge.
It's potentially huge. And the data from those animal studies really provides a solid foundation for more research and development.
But you did mention earlier that we need to be cautious when moving from animal studies to humans.
Always cautious.
Are there any other key considerations that we need to be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, aging is a really complex process.
Right. It's not just one thing.
It's not just one thing. It's a whole network of biological pathways.
Yeah.
And IL-11 is likely just one piece of that puzzle also. We have to remember that IL-11 is involved in the immune system.
Right. So if we're going to mess with that,
Yeah, we have to be really careful.
we got to be really careful.
Because we don't want to accidentally increase people's susceptibility to infection.
Right. Or like suppress their immune system.
Exactly. We don't want to weaken their defenses.
So it's like a balancing act.
It's a delicate balance.
But despite these cautions, the potential for extending our healthy years
yeah,
by targeting IL-11 seems really promising.
it's very promising.
And we're talking about reducing inflammation, preserving muscle mass, managing fat, and reducing frailty.
all the things.
These are all things that we want as we get older.
Yeah, those are all outcomes that would really improve the quality of life as we age.
And for you, the listener, who's really interested in understanding this, the key takeaway here is IL-11 is a really potentially significant factor in how we age.
It's definitely a player in the game.
So just to quickly sum up, what we've learned today is that IL-11 levels rise with age, and they seem to play a role in both fat accumulation and muscle loss.
Yeah.
And in mice, blocking IL-11, it shows some pretty impressive results in terms of improving health markers and extending lifespan.
Those were really remarkable findings.
And the fact that IL-11 has been around for so long,
Yeah.
for eons, really underscores how a molecule's function can actually evolve over vast periods of time.
Yeah, and sometimes those changes can lead to negative consequences later in life.
So it's almost like it's a reminder that evolution isn't always working in our favor.
Not always.
Not always.
Especially when we're talking about these really long lifespans that we have now.
So that's really fascinating stuff.
It is fascinating.
And it's so cool to think that, understanding the role of this one molecule could potentially have such a huge impact on how we age.
It's really remarkable.
Yeah. So here's a final thought for you, the listener, to consider. Yeah. Given that IL-11's role seems to have shifted over these vast evolutionary timescales, what other biological mechanisms that we think of as beneficial in our younger years might also have hidden age-related downsides that we haven't discovered yet?
That's a great question.
It really makes you think about how complex and ever-evolving life really is.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.